Hi everyone, I hope you're really well. I have a naked face, which can only mean one thing, it's a foundation test. Woohoo! I absolutely love doing foundation tests. I'm always up for trying new foundations, so if anyone has any suggestions of ones that I've not tried yet, leave a comment down below and I will check it out because I don't know, I'm just a bit addicted to trying foundation, I think. If you saw my last foundation test video, you'll know that I had a bit of a challenge in terms of the fact that when I do a test, I check in at the end of the day, just before I take the foundation off, just to let you know what my thoughts are, and suddenly the world decided that it was going to get very dark. So I have invested in some lighting. So fingers crossed it will work out really well, and when I do my check-in at the end of the day, it will all look fabulous. We shall see. I did a lot of research and I'm just hoping that I've made a good decision. If you are new to my channel and new to my foundation test videos, the way that I do them, I use my regular moisturiser. Even though I'm testing another amazing moisturiser at the moment, it's got primer in it. So I have resisted and not used that one today, just purely because I think when you're testing something like this, you don't want to have too many variables. I treat it a bit like a scientific experiment. I think it's the fairest way, basically. I don't use any primer. I want to see how the foundation performs on its own. If I feel like it's nice enough and it's impressed me enough, then yes, I will probably try it with a primer at a later time. I also don't use setting powder for exactly the same reason. I just try and not use too many things if at all possible because I want to see how it performs on its own. The foundation that I'm testing today technically isn't a first impression. I have tried this before, but it was before I had my YouTube channel. It was a long time ago. It was probably about 18 months, 2 years ago now. And it is Estee Lauder Double Wear. Their very famous, very well sold foundation. So thank you to those of you that left comments on previous videos of mine suggesting that I have another look at this, because I kind of have always wanted to, but I just put it off. And when you guys were like, no, go back and try it, I thought, all right then, you've twisted my arm. And I found myself in a very unusual situation, actually at an Estee Lauder counter. I say that's unusual because I live in quite a rural area now, so I don't often find myself in big department stores or anything. But quite recently, I was in a big department store and I thought, ooh, I wonder if I can get a sample rather than have to pay out for one like I usually do. And yes, I did. So I went up to the Estee Lauder counter, a lovely lady there helped me out. I said to her, I have been matched with this foundation before, and they matched me to the Cool Bone shade, I think it was, which I remember when I first tried it was definitely too light. And she told me that they've actually come out with a shade up from that, a new shade, and it's Cool Vanilla, which funnily enough, when I'd looked at a ton of swatches online when I was trying to figure out what shade to go for, that one was the one that I really wanted to try. I've got their typical really nice size sample here, so I know that this is going to last quite a few uses, which I'm really pleased about, because I think as good as first impressions are, actually being able to go back and try something again and again with different moisturisers, different primers, that kind of thing, is where it's really important, and that's where you get the true results. So, like I said, I was matched in the shade Cool Vanilla, which is one of the new shades that they've got. And whilst we're talking about shades, let's just quickly hop over onto Estee Lauder's website so that we can read a bit about this legendary foundation and have a look at their shades. So a standard 30ml will cost you £31. That was the original shade that I was matched in, Cool Bone, but now I am Cool Vanilla 2CO, but it comes in a really good shade selection, and I think it's pretty well known for that as well. In terms of the foundation itself, it's classed as the UK's #1 foundation with 15 hours staying power, and it gives you flawless all-day coverage. It's long wearing, stays fresh and looks natural through heat, humidity and non-stop activity. It won't change colour or smudge or come off on clothes, and it feels lightweight, which seems like a lot of promises. Of course, they're going to recommend that you use one of their primers and also dab Advanced Night Repair on top too. It has a really high review rate from customers, and those customers also recommend it for people with oily skin who want full coverage. Okay, so like I said, it's a really popular foundation. It's the UK's #1 foundation, and there are so many reviews from people saying about how amazing it is. And I think that's why I tried it the first time around, because I was just kind of wooed by all those amazing reviews. And when I first tried it, I do remember that you have to work with it quite quickly because it dries down really fast. So less of the talking, let's get you zoomed in a bit and we'll pop some on my face and see how it goes. Okay, so first things first, let's just pop my hair up. I moisturised my face quite a while ago now, so that's well and truly sunken in. Face feels nice and smooth and ready for action. What I like to do when I'm doing a foundation test is I like to do 2 different application methods, and that is using my trusty beauty blender and my also trusty Zoeva 104, because I love both of these and I find that they give me a really good indication of how a foundation applies, because on a day-to-day basis it will be one of these 2, or indeed both of them depending on the foundation, that I will use to apply my makeup. Just to talk you through any interesting stuff on my face, there's not a huge amount to report, which is really nice. I do suffer with hyperpigmentation on my forehead, so I've got some marks there to cover up. I've got, I don't know what is going on there, but some kind of nice spot, but it doesn't feel too bad, just looks really red. I had a really odd breakout around my mouth, and I never get breakouts around my mouth, so I don't know what's caused that, but it's all healing now. Good for a foundation test because it gives me something to cover up. And then I had a few little spots around my neck, and I also suffer with quite horrible skin around my chin area, so there's a few things there going on to cover up, which is always good. Right, I'm just going to give this a shake up because I remember it being quite a fluidy, liquidy foundation. So this is Cool Vanilla. Just pop some on my hand so you can see what it looks like. It actually looks quite yellow toned. It looks a bit different to how it did in the shop, but isn't that always the case when you're trying to get matched for something? Okay, now I'm going to try and be really good, and when I say I'm going to work in small areas, unlike my Urban Decay video, I'm actually going to do it this time. So you're ready for these concentration levels? I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave this swatch drying on my hand just to see if it does anything interesting, and I'm just going to dot some on my cheek and we'll get going. It's got such a recognisable scent that just makes you think of Estee Lauder straight away. I think I'm going to go with the idea of maybe building it up a bit, because I know how quickly this stuff dries. God, that looks really yellow. I'm having a bit of a deja vu flashback to Too Faced Born This Way foundation in vanilla, was it? Or custard as I called it, because it was really yellow. Okay, that is one really light layer, and hopefully you can see the difference between the before and after. I do definitely feel like I need to build it up. I think I'm going to build it up straight away before I do the other side, because like I said, this stuff dries down and it will become quite difficult to blend, I think, if I leave it too long. It's funny, I feel like I know so much more about how to apply makeup than the last time I used this, and I think that's just purely from watching so much on YouTube. I remember when I first got matched with this in the Cool Bone shade like nearly 2 years ago, the lady in there applied it with one of those flat foundation brushes, which I have never got on with those. I do own one, it's a very old number 7 one, and I just think it really streaks. So that one just very rarely sees the light of day anymore. I'm liking how easily this is going on. I'm just kind of feeling my way with how to put it on in between sort of stippling and patting and blending. But already I can start to feel the brush dragging on it a little bit, so it is starting to dry down. I think I'm just going to add a little bit more on my neck, and then I'm going to move on to the other side. One thing I'll be really interested with is whether it looks dry on my chin, because I do struggle with my chin just generally looking quite rubbish. Okay, I think I'm going to leave that side there, so that's that side done. I mean, it's definitely knocked a lot of the redness out of this spot, but I don't feel like I really want to put too much more on it. Maybe let's just try a little bit. It's quite difficult to only get a small amount out, but I'm just going to try and see what can be done. Okay, yeah, it's knocked it back a little bit more, but it's still not completely gone. But I can live with it. Right, Beauty Blender's time to shine. I mean, I don't know whether it's because I'm not using that much each time, or whether it's just because I'm a bit more used to some really strongly pigmented foundations that are out now, whereas this one's been around for a little while, and you're kind of used to the fact that when you've got something that is truly full coverage, you can put it on and it just kind of knocks everything out really easy. I don't mind something that needs to be built up. I think I'd kind of prefer the option, really, dependent on whether you were having a good skin day or not. Okay, feels like there's a bit of a difference between the two sides, so I'm just going to build this first side up a little bit more. Quite liking how it's looking though. Okay, I think we're matching now. I think I've built it up to quite high coverage, but I just wanted to see how far I could take it. I wouldn't say it was flawless, and I do feel like I need a touch of concealer under my eyes. I think you'd be very lucky if you found a foundation that did look okay under your eyes. But in terms of elsewhere, I might just see if I can cover this up a little bit, just because it is so obvious with my concealer, and just see how the two work together. But other than that, I'm going to pop on the rest of my makeup and I will be back in a second. Okay, there is everything else done. I've got to say that my skin is looking pretty good. The areas that I do need extra coverage, like around my chin, isn't looking fantastic. I didn't put any extra concealer here. I did put a bit of extra concealer on the side where I had this massive red spot thing going on, and it knocked a bit more of it back, and the concealer seemed to go on quite nice on top, and a little bit under my eyes as well. It's the areas where my skin is actually pretty good already, so the areas that aren't spotty and have issues, that looks really good. The skin looks really flawless. It's definitely dried right down. It feels quite dry. I've not obviously put any setting powder on at all or anything. I'm actually quite pleasantly surprised. I don't know whether it's been the fact that I've obviously got a different blending brush now, and I've got the Beauty Blender as well, whereas the last time I used this I didn't have either of those things. So far, my sort of first impressions are really good. In terms of the swatch on the back of my hand, it's super yellow. It's completely dried down, that's not going anywhere. It feels very smooth. But I'm pleased with how this is looking on my face. I think the colour match isn't too bad. What do you guys think? Considering this is a new colour to the range, I don't know how long it's been out for, but I did struggle to find samples of it, which makes me think that maybe it's quite new. My blush went really nice on top as well. That blended really well. I will see you again later when I check in at the end of the day, just before I take this off, just to let you know how I felt like it worn throughout the day. Hopefully my new lights will work really well and we'll be able to see everything and it will look fabulous. So I will see you again in a minute. Bye. Okay, so I am just about to take my makeup off, and yes, the lighting is terrible, but are you ready? I don't know how this is exactly coming out. It's incredibly bright, but hopefully this is workable. I don't know. So let's talk about this foundation. I am quite pleasantly surprised. I can see why this is a really popular foundation, because it's basically not moved. I can still see, like, around my mouth where I was a little bit heavy-handed with it earlier on, it basically hasn't budged from there. The swatch that I had on the back of my hand, I did really rub at and it started to come away, but that's essentially still there as well. It's definitely one of those foundations that makes it look like you've got foundation on. So I'm going to experiment with maybe just putting on thin layers and just seeing how that looks, because I think I probably did put quite a lot on, but I did want to see how it did. My skin, other than looking a bit shiny, still looks pretty good. I mean, this is the most convincing foundation I think I've ever worn, which still looks like I'm wearing something sort of a good 9-10 hours later, so that's pretty impressive. I am pretty shiny on my forehead, but I think that could be helped from maybe using a primer or maybe even just a bit of setting powder down the middle of my face or across my forehead. I'm not sure if I would recommend this foundation for a beginner either, because you do have to be pretty confident in your application technique because of how quickly it dries down. And you know, even I've made some pretty rookie mistakes with having too much in certain areas, and in natural daylight earlier on, a lot of the pores across my top lip looked quite visible, so that was a bit like, but it's very impressive in terms of how it's worn. My nose area seems to have pretty much worn off actually, which is interesting. I don't think I've really touched my nose that much today. I've got your suspect glasses nose pad marks, but I don't think I've ever found anything that can get past that. But I think for the moment, it's definitely impressed me in terms of its longevity. I think from a similar level of coverage and finish and performance point of view, I do actually kind of prefer the L'Oreal Infallible Matte. I think it's actually just gone straight into Holy Grail status, which I can't believe I'm saying, particularly as it's from the drugstore. Amazing. And it's so cheap, it's like $7.99 or something, but that has been the one to beat. And everything I wear, I'm just kind of comparing it to that because it goes on so nicely and it mattifies but doesn't make your skin look kind of dead and lifeless. Whereas this, it's nice, it definitely has good long wearing capability, but I don't think I like it quite as much as the L'Oreal Infallible Matte. Hi everyone, it's me from the future. It's literally just the following day. The light isn't great. Let me just fix that a second. I just really quickly wanted to record something just to say about how amazing this foundation has turned out to be. I've got it on my face again today, but today I also used my Emma Hardy Protect and Prime Moisturiser, which is amazing. And I also used a little bit of setting powder as well, just to see if it would help with any of the shininess. I've had this on for about 6 hours and my face still feels amazing. It's really smooth, it's hardly shiny at all, but it kind of looks like skin. It looks quite normal. There's still life to it. It's not flat or anything. I'm actually really impressed. I think it's definitely helped with the extra stuff that I've used today, so it's definitely benefited from a primer. I wasn't sure if the colour I'd gone for had been right because my husband reckoned I looked really pale, but actually out in the daylight today, and I've done some footage of how that looks, I think the match is actually quite good for me. But yeah, I'm super impressed. All I used was the Zoeva brush. I don't think I mentioned in my final check-in, but I don't think there was a massive difference in either application technique. Both of them seem to go on fine, but I think I'm actually preferring the brush because it's a bit quicker, because it's really easy and quick to blend with the brush, so that was a pleasant surprise. I hope that this is coming up quite clearly with this lighting. It's a really grey, miserable day today, so I'm kind of glad that I tested the foundation yesterday from a filming point of view. But like I said, I have used it today and I am completely blown away. So thank you so much to the people who recommended that I look at this one again, because you were absolutely right. I would definitely recommend you check this foundation out. They've got an excellent shade range from what I've seen. It really doesn't budge, it's very long wearing. I'm really, really pleasantly surprised. I'm not using the tripod and I feel like my arm is about to drop off. I have no idea whereabouts I'm going to segment this little extra bonus bit of video, but hopefully I will have edited this in such a way that it will all make sense. But I just really wanted to jump in somewhere just to sort of infuse a bit more really. I don't know if I could choose between this one or the Infallible Matte now. I'm going to have a think about that. Anyway, I hope you're all really well. I hope this lighting has kind of worked. It's been a really big challenge for me to try and overcome because the lighting is really horrendous. Like I said in my other video, I'm sorry. I know that's a really annoying cliche to come out with, but it's a challenge that I'm trying my best to get around, and I'm hoping that this is okay because this is sort of mid-afternoon and it's been grey and horrible all day here. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking and I will see you again soon. Bye! £95 for a moisturiser, and immediately my expectations. My dog's just like, what? What are you excited about? Spaniel. My expectations immediately just went through the roof.